Om Namah Shivaya. Today I will talk about how the Mughals looted and destroyed Hindustan. So let us first go to the beginning of the invasions of Mughals from Central Asia. Nadir Shah looted India, and it is recorded that he made Persia tax-free for the next 3 years. Subsequently, there were Mongol invasions. Timur also invaded, and Genghis Khan also invaded. They looted the country and went back. Zahir-ud-Din Muhammad, a descendant of Timur and Genghis Khan from the Timurid dynasty, whom you popularly know as Babur. He was a ruler of a small princely state in Central Asia. He tried to capture Kabul. He tried to also attack and bring Samarkand under his rule, but he failed. When he failed to establish a kingdom of his own in Central Asia, he came to India to establish a kingdom of his own, and on 21st April 1526 he came to Delhi, defeated Ibrahim Lodi in the first battle of Panipat, and became the first Mughal ruler of Hindustan. Babur was actually born in Fergana Valley, which presently is Uzbekistan, and which you know is in Central Asia. Now, after Babur stayed on in Delhi and established his rule till about 1530 December, he ruled for about 4 years plus in Delhi. And then the son of Babur, Humayun, came to the throne. Now, what is the true story of Mughals and how they looted the country and how they exploited its people and its resources? You can well understand by the fact that in ancient India, in 1000 AD, it contributed about 33% of the total world GDP. But after the rule of Mughals, which lasted roughly about 200 years, the share of GDP in the entire world, the total share came down to about 16%. Not only this, the Mughals destroyed the scientific research going on in the country by various rishis, scientists, and others like Aryabhatta, Brahmabhat, Bhaskar, Varahamihira, who had done considerable research on various subjects. This was destroyed. Then the famous universities of Takshila and Nalanda University were also destroyed by them. Important centers of learning in ancient India, like Kashi, like Mathura, they were also totally destroyed. In these centers, many Sanskrit scholars used to go to study, to learn Sanskrit, and to debate on very important issues. In these debates, not only men, but even women used to participate equally. The Mughals also destroyed the ancient cities of Delhi, Charkhi Dadri, Meerut, Kannauj, and others, where they executed millions of Hindus to destroy these cities completely. You will also realize that Mughals, even though they were living in India and they were perpetuating their rule in India, they did not rule with the help of local population, but they brought 70% of administrators from foreign born Muslims. And the language adopted by these Mughal rulers was Persian language, which is now Urdu, roughly. No Indian language like Sanskrit, Pali, Brij, etc. was allowed to prosper. In fact, there were 220 odd foreign nobles who were imported from Central Asia and North Africa in the court of the Mughal Emperor Akbar, who is considered highly lenient and sympathetic towards the local population generally. There were hardly 40 Indians as per the historical records of Bernier and Sir Thomas Roe. These 40 Indians were also recruited by Akbar only when there was revolt in different regions of his empire and there was a pressure to induct some local talent in the administration. So, largely, foreign nobles under the court of the Mughals ran this country. The Mughals largely did not help any Indian Muslims unless they wanted to use these Indian Muslims as cannon fodder for their armies. The Mughals not only destroyed the education system but also imposed Central Asian architecture wherever possible in the kingdom. According to historian Sitaram Goyal, more than 40,000 temples were destroyed during the Mughal rule. And in many cases, after destroying the temple, a mosque or a masjid was created on top of these foundations. The living evidence of these kind of structures is Kashi Vishwanath, which was at least razed to the ground 15-16 times, Mathura, 64 Yogini Mandir, Ram Mandir, and why not Somnath, which was razed to the ground about 17 times by these invaders. Babur imposed jizya tax on individuals who were non-Muslims. So they used to collect jizya tax apart from agricultural tax and also land revenue from the local citizens of their empire. This jizya tax continued for a long time. Akbar also propagated Deen-e-Ilahi, a religion which would encompass all the Muslim and Hindu features and encouraged everybody to join this religion. Similarly, Aurangzeb's brother Dara Shikoh encouraged Sufism and tried to promote it everywhere in his kingdom. When Shah Jahan constructed Taj Mahal, it led to expenditure of crores of rupees due to which Aurangzeb, literally, when he became the Mughal emperor, got an empty treasury. Now, this also led to further atrocities on the local Hindu population. Taxes were increased, land revenue was oppressive, jizya tax had to be paid by all the non-Muslims. So, the Hindus were highly oppressed and they were not allowed to retain their culture, their basic religion, and to see to it that agriculture was devastated. The owners, who were the farmers, became daily wage workers, laborers, and had to struggle for their existence. These Mughal rulers, for instance Shah Jahan and others, Babur, celebrated Nowruz, which is the Persian New Year, very magnificently. They gave gifts to all the foreign Muslim nobles in their court, spent a lot of money on the celebrations. Like Shah Jahan gave a gift of 50 lakh rupees to his daughter on the occasion of Nowruz, and he gave 20 lakh rupees to his wife as a gift, when at that time the salary of an ordinary individual used to be hardly 2 to 5 rupees per month. The Mughal rulers also spent heavily on Muslim Hajj contingents. Like Babur, he sent Muslim Hajj contingents from India to Mecca, Medina, Khurasan, Samarkand, along with rupees 6 lakh as gifts, jewels, jewelry, best of clothes, other gold and silver items. So they splurged a lot of money collected from the poor Indians to these kind of destinations. The French scholar François Bernier has written, who is a French historian, that agriculture was fully destroyed and the owners of these lands became daily wagers, laborers. The only place where canal was made by Mughals, if you remember, India was highly advanced. Indus Valley civilization, we had a very good canal system, irrigation system, sewage system. There was a bath also in that Mohenjo-daro, which is called the Great Bath. But during the Mughal period, a canal was built. Now, where this canal was built, you will be shocked to know, more than 10 lakh rupees was spent on building a canal network in Nazaf in Iraq. This canal system made Iraq green, but not a single canal was made by the Mughals in India in their entire empire. Now, historian K.S. Lal published in 1973 that about 60 to 80 million people died in India between 1000 AD to 1525 AD due to external invasions. 60 to 80 million is a huge number when you consider that during World War I, only 20 million people died. So, what kind of rule or legitimacy the Mughal kings or development was provided to the local Indian population is not clear, because it appears that the Mughal rulers only looked after their own interest, and the Hindus were economically, culturally, and politically oppressed by the Mughals continuously during their about 200 years rule in this country. The Mughals converted people to change their identity so that they can enslave their entire generations. So, if the identity is changed, that person becomes enslaved to the Mughals forever. And not only the present generation, but the future generations also become enslaved to Mughals. In our history, it was the Marathas led by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, who is known to have liberated about 230 forts in the Deccan before he died in 1680. So, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj faced the Mughals and made some important conquests of forts. Similarly, Rana Kumbha, the Ahoms in Assam, Jajjats, the Sikh Gurus, Maharana Pratap, the Vijayanagar Empire in the south, the Reddy Kingdom in Andhra, all these kings made important contributions in containing the Mughal Empire. But do you read about them in history? This has been quite literally omitted deliberately in our history. Their contribution to bravely contend the Mughals is not fully recorded at all. Maybe a sentence may be here and there, but their full exploits, their brave deeds have not been recorded properly in our history books. In fact, Lord Mountbatten had said, had Shivaji been born in England, we would not only have ruled earth, but the whole universe. This was said by Lord Mountbatten. After the death of Aurangzeb, which was a very highly unpopular rule of the Mughal Emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar became the king. Now, the Mughal rulers had ascribed to themselves God's shadow on earth, which is literally the meaning of Jille Ilahi. So, the Mughal rulers were to be treated as God's shadow on earth. The Safavids and the Ottomans also reached the pinnacle of their power around 1700, and later on they also declined around the same time. There were weak kings after Bahadur Shah Zafar. There was no permanent bureaucracy, and several other successors like Jahanadar Shah, Muhammad Shah, Farrukh Siyar, etc. were not capable enough to run this entire Mughal empire. So slowly the Mughal empire came to decline, and the Marathas, who were gaining in strength under Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath, they controlled an entire area from Attock and Lahore in north to Bengal in east and Tanjavur in the south. So you can well understand that what the Mughals contributed to India is perhaps not fully described in our history books, what they have actually done. On the other hand, they have been shown to be very lenient, very tolerant kind of kings, whereas in fact they led to destruction of the structures in India, particularly most of the famous temples. Not only they razed the temples to the ground, but also banned Hindus from doing puja, from doing their religious practices, and particularly Aurangzeb also very much harassed Kashmiri Pandits. Similarly, Tipu Sultan in the south, called Aurangzeb of the south, he ran a campaign in Kurg, killed a lot of Hindus and Christians, and destroyed many temples. So, this is roughly, in brief, the history of Mughals' rule in India over a period of about 200 years. So, to say that Mughals contributed to raising the standard of the Indian, ancient India, giving good architecture, giving a lot of economic prosperity, education, architecture, other structures to India, somehow does not appear to be true. And the historians need to reassess it and especially read some of the historical books written by many eminent ancient historians of that period to get a glimpse of the actual picture during the Mughal rule. The GDP share in the world GDP not only declined, but also Hindustan as a nation also declined. And finally, when the Mughals left, our share of world GDP was hardly 16%. And somewhere around 1820s, China, which was behind India's share in the world GDP, surpassed India for the first time. So, this is basically a factual history of Mughal period in India, and more research is required in this aspect to come to some kind of conclusion. Here, I may also point out that the Congress government after independence continuously nominated or put Muslim ministers in charge of the Department of Education, who perhaps subverted history, showing Mughals as big heroes and not as conquerors and the invaders which they actually were. So this history has to be repeated and rewritten again, wherein putting only Muslim ministers in charge of the Department of Education, the Congress did another disservice wherein the history perhaps could not be recorded as it should have been. I have done a single research and my research is limited, but perhaps some more research needs to be done before coming to any kind of final conclusion about the contribution of Mughals to the history of Hindustan. Thank you for watching this video.